Welcome back to another episode of Little Whimsy. Glad you could join us. It has been a traditionally busy New Year's. We have a lot going on. As you can see behind me, the Christmas decorations finally did get taken down, except for Little Whimsy. That is still up and running as the grandchildren continue to want to see it. No visitor as well. Mastered of holding things together for 3 or 4 months requires something a little better than adhesive. So next year I'll be doing better construction initially, stronger construction, so that we don't have the ski slope descending to the main tabletop the way we did this year a couple of times. This Christmas, in previous years, we've had a Christmas tree in the living room for the big family tree and a small one in our room as a travel tree that holds the ornaments from all our trips and excursions and journeys. And unfortunately, we realized we had traveled too much, and the smaller tree was drowning in ornaments. So we simply left it down and put all our souvenir ornaments on the big tree. Out very well. Record the journeys that Elaine and I have made, the travels that some of our children have taken. We have ornaments from China, from Africa, from this north in Canada, alert, continents, a lot of stops. It's a fascinating history, and it occurred to me in a lot of ways that our Christmas tree is really a history tree. As we were taking the ornaments off, I realized that we have 6 generations of the family represented in some of them. Neat. Whimsy, as I mentioned, is still up and running. And it occurred to me that in a mid-seasons, Whimsy has struck again. Than Christmas and more than New Year's for us. We have a grandchild with a birthday in November, we have a son with a birthday in December, another son and coincidentally a daughter-in-law with birthdays in January, a little later than my Elaine's is earlier in the month. We have another grandchild whose birthday is January. And this year, a couple of weeks before Christmas, we had another grandchild arrive. That was a momentous day of anxious news, long distance. Child are doing well, dad's recovering nicely, and the older siblings are thrilled. Today, unfortunately, I had to go with another son to town to take his dog up for a final trip to the vet. Talk about your circle of life. The next time we saw our granddaughter, his daughter, she was naturally rather subdued. Fred, the dog, had been a lifelong friend for her, and she was starting to get used to the notion that he wouldn't be around. And, I went out back one day, and I realized something. We have a number of figurines with Little Whimsy, a number of dogs. One of them, like Fred. So I pointed this out to my granddaughter when she was looking at the one day, and we moved Fred over so he could photobomb anybody who wanted their picture taken by the Christmas tree in the main square of Little Whimsy. He was an amazingly friendly dog, back as you want to get. And yeah, he's in the center of activity. Thing I was thinking of as we were watching the trains go around for the delight of our grandchildren. They're all very neat, very nice. Favorite on a train happens to be a caboose. There's a story to that. Before I met Elaine, I spent a lot of time and put in a lot of miles doing mineral surveys. They were okay, as they were warm enough that any fly that lit on me to bite me would probably drown. in sweat before it had a chance to draw blood. Others were even nicer in some ways, a lot colder and more difficult, but no flies. There was one winter survey. We had to the vehicles long before dawn in January, the better part of an hour to a turnout where we could park on a side road by the railway tracks. Then we would take the snowmobile. We only had one, but boss would hop on behind the driver, and the rest of us would pile into a bathtub on a sled and bounce along behind for an hour or so to get to where we had left some of our gear. At that point, under a very large and obvious tree, we would pick up what we needed, put on our snowshoes, which we'd left under the tree, and disappear for the better part of the day into the woods. Well, 3 o'clock, 3:30, we'd be in the afternoon. We'd be back out at the tree, hop on the snowmobile, and get home before dark. One day, finished work, into the sled, long for a good 5 minutes, and then the snowmobile was no longer mobile. The engine died, and there we were, kilometers from the vehicle, snowshoes. We tried walking on the track that the snowmobile had left and discovered that every 3 or 4 steps we would plunge through, which was awkward and unexpected when you're carrying some gear, some delicate gear. And we looked around and realized that only 100 yards or about 100 meters side was the railway tracks, which were lovely, high, and clear of snow. Walked over there. It was the better part of an hour because we were wading through snow that was well over hip deep. See the rocks, the bushes, the branches, the grass hummocks, and everything else that were below the snow. So we took turns on point breaking trail. Finally made it to the railway tracks, soaked from the waist down in ice water and soaked from the waist up in sweat from the exertion. And we still had probably about 15 kilometers to go to get to the cars. Pleasant. Tracks were dead straight for a good ways ahead of us as we started walking. Behind us, they gradually, as railway tracks do, up to the top of a ridge. And in looking behind, I realized there was a train off of the skyline. You could see it wasn't moving. We looked very carefully. We realized that it wasn't quite on the main line. It was a tiny bit to one side. So it's on a siding, but it's running and it's not moving. That means there's another train coming. So we eyes and ears open, and sure enough, a passenger train came going the opposite way to what we were walking. And the engineers on the passengers train had a fine demonstration of song and dance from half a dozen guys on the field crew as we jumped and hollered and waved our arms and the appropriate signs to indicate that we were in trouble. Fairly obvious because we were in the middle of nowhere and the day was growing darker. Well, the passenger train didn't stop, but he obviously radioed the on the train that was parked at the top of the ridge. And as soon as he was by, that train started down the grade towards us at a very slow pace and didn't stop. The locomotive went by with one of the engineers waving to us. Back end of the train, there was a caboose, and that stopped directly beside us. And a gentleman came out and inquired if perhaps we needed a little assistance. And that was the one and only time I got to ride in a caboose. And it was bright and warm, and they dropped us off right beside our cars. so we could drive home, get changed, have supper and a drink, and celebrate not freezing to death by the railway line. Of course, of running a winter survey. It was a marvelous experience. And ever since then, I've had a soft spot in my heart for the caboose at the back end of the train. Of course, years ago, cabooses disappeared. They were replaced by a small box of electronics that was hung on the last freight car. The reason why cabooses existed was so that a guy or two of the train crew could keep an eye on the load and the cars, make sure that the engineers were aware that the signals were set and that they were obeying them, and let them know if there seemed to be a problem with one of the cars that they were in the train. Being what it is, they figured out a way of taking a little black box and making it do the same job. It will tell the engineers if there's any problems anywhere on the train. Now, I can't see myself being rescued and riding for many kilometers on a little black box. Soft spot for cabooses. Whimsey is up still and running, and probably will be to the end of the month, because I'm too darn lazy to start the process of taking it all down for a while yet. And as long as the grandchildren want to see the trains and the lights and the music and everything else, I'll be more than happy to keep it up and keep it running until such time as we really do need the space in the back room. I'm still working out how we could get a permanent setup and how we could build the mountain so that it is a mountain rather than just styrofoam. Have to use my imagination on that. I hope you enjoyed the tale of Doug in the Caboose. If you have pets, yeah, there's good times and bad times, and cherish the good times. The same with children and grandchildren too, for that matter. I feel less responsible for them. I just stuff the grandchildren full of candy and send them back to their parents, let them worry about it. Until next time, I hope that you have a good season. We're in the depths of winter here and the temperatures are showing it, but it's been a good year so far, and we're actually enjoying it, in part because we have a puppy who was born in the wintertime, loves snow, and can't wait to go out and play in it, on it, under it. Any way he can get it is great. And that lends some enjoyment to slightly cooler temperatures. I hope you'll join us again for a couple more tales and a couple more stories. And in the meantime, I hope that you have a little whimsy in your life, and that it gives you joy looking forward to the future. And let your imaginations take you wherever they will. Like our travel tree, come Christmas tree, there are joyful memories and things to look forward to. Bye for now.